500,000 years ago, when humans were still learning to make fire, the Varelians visited Earth. They were explorers from a bright spiral of stars far beyond the Milky Way. Their ships were smooth silver giants that could travel between suns in a single heartbeat. When they arrived, they saw the young world filled with forests, animals, and small frightened tribes. Humans looked too simple, too wild to understand the great truths of the galaxy. The Varelians studied them for a time, watched them gather around fires and carve marks into stone, and then decided to leave. Before departing, they built secret outposts deep under the mountains and left messages in stone and crystal. Their last words were a promise to return after 500,000 years, to see what had become of the little species that walked upright. Then they rose into the black sky and vanished among the stars. Now the long years had passed. Stars had shifted their positions. Entire civilizations elsewhere in the galaxy had risen and fallen. The Varelians had changed too. They were wiser now, more patient yet still curious. Captain Aaron Vell commanded their newest exploration fleet. His ship, the Eternal Wind, led a formation of silver vessels toward a small blue planet their ancestors had once marked as promising, species developing. When the fleet reached the solar system, they were surprised to find a new sun station orbiting between Mars and Earth. It was not Varelian-made. It was old, quiet, but still alive with strange power. The captain gave the order to scan the Earth below. The images stunned everyone on the bridge. The continents were covered with immense metal shapes. Towers reached so high they cast shadows over the clouds. There were rings of light around cities, machines moving without pilots, and oceans dotted with structures glowing deep under the waves. But there were no living creatures. No heartbeat, no voice, no biological life at all. The world was silent. "Has the species gone extinct?" one of the officers whispered. "No," said Aaron Vell softly. "Look closer." The scanners searched deeper. They found energy signals, faint but steady, buried beneath the crust. There were tunnels and chambers stretching for thousands of kilometers. In one of them, a beacon still pulsed, sending the same pattern every few seconds. The fleet decoded it, and the words appeared on the screen. "Do not disturb the Guardians. Humanity sleeps but watches," the message repeated again and again. The scientists aboard argued about what it meant. Some said it was a defense system. Others said it was a warning left by survivors who had gone underground. The younger crew members thought it might be nothing but an automated signal still running after thousands of years. But Captain Aaron felt something different. There was intention behind those words. They decided to land near the Himalayas, where the strongest signal came from. The landscape there was covered in snow and metallic dust. Mountains were shaped like giant sculptures carved by machines that no longer worked. They found what looked like a door the size of a city gate, hidden in the side of a cliff. Its surface shimmered like glass but felt solid as diamond. The old warning signal came from deep within it. The team set up their base camp and began to dig through the frozen surface. As they worked, the ground trembled. The temperature around the gate started to rise. Lights began to move across the surface, forming symbols none of the aliens recognized. The scientists shouted that it was reactivating. Captain Aaron ordered everyone back, but it was too late. The mountain rumbled and the massive door began to slide open. A beam of golden light spilled out, so bright that the cameras burned out. When the dust settled, the Varelians saw a vast tunnel leading downward, lined with glowing walls. Inside, strange structures stood like sleeping giants, humanoid shapes made of metal and glass, standing silently in rows that stretched farther than the eye could see. One of the younger explorers whispered, "Are these statues?" Aaron walked closer. He placed his gloved hand on one of the figures. The metal was warm, almost like skin. Suddenly, the figure's eyes opened. A soft blue light filled the air, and a voice spoke, not aloud but inside their minds. "You should not have come here," it said. Every Varelian froze. The figure moved slowly as if waking from a long dream. Dust fell from its shoulders. It was tall, with the shape of a human, but no mouth, no visible joints. Its body was made of flowing metal that seemed alive. More of the figures began to wake one after another until the whole cavern glowed with blue light. The Varelians raised their scanners, trying to understand. They detected no heartbeat, no organs, no typical life signs. But the energy coming from these beings was beyond anything in their records. Each one carried the power of a star reactor. Aaron tried to speak through the translator. "We are explorers. We mean no harm. We come from the stars as we did long ago. Do you remember the Varelians? The metallic being turned its glowing eyes toward him. Yes, it said. You came when the world was young. You watched, you left. We grew. The captain's breath caught in his throat. You are humans? The being tilted its head. We are what humans became. The Varelians looked at one another, unable to speak. The being stepped forward and raised its hand. The air shimmered and images filled the space around them. Scenes of ancient Earth, humans building cities, flying to the moon, then leaving the planet entirely. They saw wars end, machines rise, and finally, a moment where all humans gathered their minds into the planet itself, merging their thoughts and knowledge into the world that had raised them. Aaron whispered. They merged with their world. Yes, the being replied. The body sleeps, but the mind watches. For 500,000 years we have waited. Waited for what? Aaron asked quietly. The being's eyes dimmed slightly. For you. You promised to return. Before anyone could reply, the ground shook again. Far above them, clouds formed into glowing spirals. The fleet orbiting in space reported massive energy readings coming from beneath every continent. Lights began to appear across the planet's surface, forming perfect geometric lines. It was as if the Earth itself had awakened. Aaron shouted into his communicator, "All ships prepare for emergency departure." But the signal broke apart in static. The air around them was humming with power, like the inside of a living engine. The metallic humans raised their heads. Their eyes turned from blue to white. A sound filled the cavern, a low, deep tone that felt like a heartbeat. Do not fear, the leader said calmly. You are safe, but you should not have opened the gate before the dawn. Aaron's team began to back away, hearts pounding. The entire mountain seemed to breathe. Above them, the snow melted in wide circles. The captain turned to his crew. We have to leave now. But when they stepped outside, the night sky was no longer dark. The stars themselves were shifting, moving into new constellations. Around the planet, enormous silver rings unfolded, ancient constructions rising from orbit. They glowed brighter than the sun for a moment, then steadied into calm golden light. The Varelians stood in silence, realizing what they had done. They hadn't uncovered a ruin. They had awakened something alive, something old, something human. Captain Aaron watched the mountains pulse with light and whispered the words none of his crew wanted to hear. Earth remembers. Behind him, the humanoid being walked out of the gate, standing tall under the glowing sky. It looked at the alien ships rising above the clouds and said softly, Welcome back, travelers. We have much to show you. The fleet above Earth reported one final message before the signal went silent. The Guardians have awakened. The mountain stopped shaking and silence returned, but it was not the same kind of silence as before. It was heavy, alive, and full of hidden sound. The air itself felt like it was listening. The Varelians stood outside the gate, surrounded by soft light coming from the walls of the mountain. The tall metallic being stood before them, its glowing eyes calm but distant. Captain Aaron tried to steady his voice. We did not come to harm your world. We only came to learn. We believed you were gone. The being looked at him. Gone? No, we only changed. We became one with the world you left behind. The words made no sense to most of the crew. The scientists checked their scanners again, and what they saw filled them with disbelief. The entire planet was filled with energy, alive, moving, breathing like a giant heart. Every rock, every cloud, every grain of dust carried traces of human thought. The being spoke again. When you came last time, we were small. You called us weak, but weakness made us grow. We learned to bend the rules of matter and time. We learned to build without metal and fight without war. And when our bodies could no longer hold our minds, we gave them back to the earth that made us. The words echoed inside their minds like music. One of the crew whispered, Are you gods? The being turned its head slightly. No, we are only humans who stopped dying. Captain Aaron stared at the horizon. Strange lights were spreading across the sky, rings of white fire circling the planet. His ship sent a report. Structures were rising from the oceans, forming giant arcs that connected continents. He realized Earth itself was waking up. What are you doing? He asked. Restoring balance, the being said. We have slept too long. Your arrival was the final key. The captain raised his voice, almost pleading. If we disturbed you, we can leave. We did not mean to awaken anything dangerous. There is no danger, the being said softly. There is only truth. A beam of light reached from the sky to the ground, wrapping the Varelians in a warm glow. Suddenly, they were not on the mountain anymore. They were standing above the Earth itself as if the world had lifted them into the stars. Below them they could see cities built in crystal, oceans reflecting like glass, and lines of pure energy spreading across the continents like veins of light. The being appeared beside them, though it had not moved. "This is the Earth you left behind," it said. "Humans built this before they merged. It is the memory of what we once were." Captain Aaron looked down and felt small. The beauty was overwhelming. "Why did you go to sleep?" he asked quietly. "Because the galaxy was not ready," the being answered. "We saw wars, greed, destruction across the stars. We chose to wait until the noise passed, until the universe could breathe again." Aaron turned to his officers. "They waited 500,000 years for peace." The being nodded. "And now you are here again." The Watchers returned to find the watched have become the Watchers themselves. Suddenly the light dimmed, and they were back on the mountain. The sky above was filled with moving ships, enormous human vessels shaped like flowing metal, their surfaces glowing with lines of white energy. They were not built with engines or fuel. They moved as if the stars themselves were carrying them. The Varelian fleet in orbit tried to speak with the newcomers, but no signals worked. The human ships surrounded Earth in silence. One of them opened, revealing a bright sphere of light inside. From that light came a voice that filled every ship and every mind across the solar system. "We welcome the travelers who once watched our beginning. You came to measure us. You came to see if we could rise. We rose, we walked among stars. We crossed the edge of time. And then we returned home." Captain Aaron listened, his heart pounding. "You speak to us as if you remember," he said. "We remember everything," the voice said gently. "You left us a promise. You said when we reached the stars you would return. But we no longer need teachers. We have learned to build suns." Those words echoed through the command bridge of every Varelian ship. They looked upon the human vessels and realized they were looking at something far beyond their own understanding. Humanity had not vanished. They had evolved past form, past limits, past fear. Aaron spoke again. "We did not come to rule. We came to see if you survived. And now you see," the voice replied. On the surface, the metallic beings walked among the mountains, touching the rocks and snow. Wherever they walked, plants began to grow again, green and strong even in the frozen air. The planet was healing, alive once more. Aaron's second officer whispered, "They can bring life just by walking." "What are they?" "They are us," Aaron said softly. "What we hope to become." Then something even greater happened. The moon, once quiet and gray, began to glow. Lines of light traced across its surface, forming symbols too vast to understand. The human ships moved aside as the moon itself opened, revealing hidden structures buried deep inside for thousands of centuries. From within came a gentle wave of light that passed over every ship and every living being. In that moment, Aaron felt something touch his mind. It was not a command. It was a memory. He saw Earth as it once was. Oceans full of color, skies filled with music, people laughing, building, dreaming. He saw humanity leaving their world, exploring other galaxies, building star bridges, and finally, choosing to rest. Then the vision faded, and the voice spoke one last time. "We thank you for keeping your promise, but your path lies beyond us now. The galaxy still needs dreamers. Go and tell them what you have seen, that the small ones of Earth have become the builders of eternity." Aaron felt tears in his eyes, though Varelians had not cried in thousands of years. "We will remember," he said. "We will tell them." The human ships began to drift upward, their light softening until they blended with the stars. The mountains cooled, the snow returned, and the great door sealed itself once more. The signal that had once said humanity sleeps now sent a new message across the galaxy. Humanity watches. Humanity guards. The Varelian fleet turned away from Earth. None of them spoke as the planet grew smaller behind them. Its blue light filled their screens, calm and alive. Captain Aaron stood by the observation window, watching the home of the beings that had once been the weakest of all, now standing as the mightiest of creation. He spoke softly to himself. "They became more than we ever dreamed. We came to teach them, but they became the ones who teach the stars." As their ships crossed the edge of the solar system, a final flash of light came from behind them. The crew turned to see a vast ring forming around the sun itself, a golden halo stretching across space. It was Earth's final greeting, silent but full of meaning. The message appeared on their screens without sound, written in pure energy. "Go in peace, travelers. We are awake." And then the light faded. For many years after, the Varelians spoke of what they had seen. Some refused to believe it. Others called it a miracle. But all agreed on one truth. Humanity, the forgotten children of an old world, had not only survived but had become something beyond time and death. In the great records of the galaxy, one new entry was written: Earth, no longer a world but a mind. Approach with respect. The guardians dwell within. And so the legend of humanity spread across the stars once more, not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as beings who rose above everything, who learned to sleep and yet still dream, whose hearts still beat within the living light of their world.